Hello, you guys, and welcome back to the podcast. We are very casually in my guest bathroom in my new beautiful apartment in Chicago, Illinois. I keep forgetting I'm an Illinois resident. Like, what the fuck is happening? Anyway, I'm so excited. We are still moving forward. Podcast is happening. We have incredible guest experts today. No exception to just an incredibly raw, beautiful conversation with one of my clients, Dr. Susanna Bergin. She is a somatic chiropractor, and it has been insane watching her business grow and develop. And as much as I want to get into the business stuff, she really is just an expert at understanding how to heal trauma. And so for so many of you guys in the audience who are maybe getting out into the real world, feeling like you are a little bit lost in this new corporate environment or in like your new career, maybe you're in your 30s like me, and you're having like your like midlife kind of like, what am I doing crisis? And you're navigating and pushing forward and moving forward and doing it in the midst of navigating loss, navigating heaviness, personal trauma, things from your past. Like there's always things that are, weighing heavily on us. And I've never really been able to bring on an expert that can talk about her own trauma. Susanna was actually at school when 9/11 hit the Twin Towers many, many years ago. And, as someone who's just 5 miles away from that incident, obviously that was something that impacted her very heavily. So we talk a little bit about her experience, how that led to her diagnosis of PTSD when she was 18 years old, and how that impacted her and her entire life's work, how that led her to being a chiropractor, where her business is going now, what a session looks like. Do you need a chiropractor? What is a somatic chiropractor? I mean, we go into so many things. And I think this is going to be a really healthy episode for you guys to feel safe and seen and heard, and also just understood and provided more clarity in the next direction that you guys go in your own healing journey. So with that, I am so excited to welcome Susanna to the podcast. Susanna, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Yay, I'm excited.
We talked about the fact, two crazy things happening. One, we were trying to record this last week, and as everyone knows, I have moved, so we are in chaos. Second, I am currently sitting in my guest bathroom on a toilet recording this, which is truly, I'm watching Project Runway again. Tim Gunn always says like a make it work moment. So the first thing I want to ask you is, can you tell us about like a make it work moment in your life? Getting to where you're at right now, just something that comes to mind as far as like, I just did what it took to get to where I'm going.
Oh, that's a good question. I think, honestly, I would describe all of chiropractic school for me as a like, just fucking make it work kind of vibes. Chiropractic school was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. But in particular, like the cellular biology or biochem, like those were the moments where I really had to just be like, Susanna, your only option is to get through this.
Yeah.
And there's no other option.
Yeah.
I have memories of like the day I found out I passed those classes and just like tears, just crying, like just that affirmation that I had made it through.
Yeah. I think when you grow up, it's really interesting what career paths you're aware of, whether you're like your parents are in a certain career path, so you're aware of something, or you just I've always wanted to do something. Like I was like you're a doctor, you're a teacher, or you're in business. Like, I don't know. I just didn't really know anything in between. But one thing that I always knew existed is obviously like nursing. I went to a very heavy nurses college, and let me tell you, no bitch was in the library longer than those nursing students. Like they were there morning, evening, night, same thing, obviously different kind of field, but they were like this class, like the semesters that they had, some of those classes, I don't think we saw them. And I was in a sorority. We had a lot of nursing students in our sorority. They like hustled their asses off. Like that seems so fucking hard. Did you always want to be a chiropractor? Like when did your first desire to be a chiropractor? Like when did that happen?
No, it was quite a twist in my path. My entire career has been surprising to me. For me, I think the thing that I always imagined I was going to do growing up was either be a teacher or work in nonprofits. Like I really wanted to do community work. And interestingly, my dad, like many years later, told me, he was like, I always knew you were either going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And I was like, really? That was literally never, it was never on the table until the day it was on the table.
Tell me what the day it was on the table. I want to know about that.
Yeah. So it was really like so many things kind of converged at once to like have this light bulb moment of knowing what I wanted to do with my life. Professionally, I had been working in schools and doing community organizing, doing anti-racism education, and was really, really wanted to be doing powerful change work with people, but was really burned out trying to do it on the macro level.
Got it.
And personally, I had been healing my own trauma in talk therapy for many years. I was diagnosed with PTSD when I was 18, and I was in talk therapy for about 7 years. Right around this time, my therapist said to me, "You're doing really well." And I was like, that feels like, what's your definition of well?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I'm still having panic attacks. I'm still having chronic pain. I'm still having severe chronic fatigue, but I can explain everything really well. Like, I can explain what's going on, what happened really well. She said something that really changed my life. She said, "You have achieved what you're going to achieve in talk therapy."
Okay.
And I'm to this day so profoundly grateful that she said that, because it was like, okay, I guess in many ways, actually, that was another make it work moment, because I was like, well, that's not good enough for me. I'm not willing to live with these symptoms forever. And so I was simultaneously looking around for like a career path that wasn't going to burn me out. I knew I was really interested in trauma healing. I knew I was really interested in helping people. And I initially thought maybe I'll become a therapist. Went and applied for master's in psychology, got accepted at Columbia University, had my acceptance letter in hand. This is the moment. And literally, my knees buckled under me. I fell to the floor. And my whole body was like, don't do it.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Like, I don't know what else there is. And so I deferred my acceptance. I just started asking everyone I could find, like, this is what I'm interested in, but that's not, like, becoming a therapist is not the path. And I ended up having a conversation with a friend who was working with a chiropractor who was doing body work for mental, emotional health and trauma healing. And it was like, I couldn't sit still for days. Like, it was such a light bulb moment. But I had not taken a science class since high school. There was no part of me that ever in a million years thought I would become a doctor. My entry point was through massage school, which was the most fun I've ever had. I was a massage therapist. Oh my
I have
God,
to hit you up on that. Come visit for a little little practice,
massage school is the
refresher.
best. Because you get massage every single day. You're practicing on each other.
Me and Lex just tell us where to go. We'll see you soon.
I also did my trauma training at that time, and I practiced for a while, but was getting really complicated cases, because when you work with trauma, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And so eventually I decided I just needed to know more about the body. And that was when I decided to go to chiropractic school.
Wow. I'm curious, because you said you hadn't taken like a lot of science classes, more for like my own education. I have a lot of women who are like figuring out their careers who watch this podcast. So a psychiatrist and psychologist are different. So does a therapist fall under like a psychologist? So it's not a doctor, and psychiatrist is a doctor. Do I have that correct, or am I way off on that?
Yeah, psychiatrists and psychologists are different, first of all. Psychiatrists, as far as I know, it is a doctorate.
Okay.
Psychology, you can do a master's or a doctorate. And I think actually that's true in like all the therapy degrees you can get, which include psychology, counseling, social work. There's sort of like different titles. Different schools do it differently, but I think in most cases you can either do a master's or a doctorate.
Okay, got it. Now, when you had that like feeling, the buckling, did it come from the thought of like, I know I don't want to be a therapist and I feel heavy that I know I'm not meant to do this? Or did you have this like, I feel like I'm meant for something different? Like, you've had that like, I think I haven't found the thing yet. Like, where did it come from?
That's such a good question. No one's ever asked me that.
I'm a great question asker.
I know.
I'm curious though, because like sometimes we have that gut feeling, and it's like, because we know we don't want something, or we're like, I think I want something completely different. And like, sometimes it's a combination of both, but I'm just like, knowing your personality, I'm like, I wonder where that actually stemmed from.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't want this. Like, this is a no. Like, I didn't have any concept of what else I could even do. Like, I had been on the track for years of like, the only path I can see for like what I want without burning out is doing therapy. And I experience this a lot with somatic work. Like when you do deep work with your body, your brain can be really limited and be like, all I can see is this one path. But at some point, if it's the wrong path for you, your body will let you know. And that was what happened in that moment.
Wow, that's such like a full circle of like you are totally in what you were meant to do. Can I ask you about PTSD? Is that okay if I ask you about it?
Yeah, totally.
So I feel like, and again, this is more for like my level of like awareness. And, you know, I learned so much on episodes with my clients and just people in general because I'm always like, I didn't know anything. PTSD, OCD, there's a lot of terms that get thrown out. In fact, I was literally on the phone with my mother earlier and we were joking about I've spent, God, 20K this last week on organizing my apartment, on like bins and labels and like shit, right? And my mom's like, oh, you're just like so OCD. I've never been diagnosed as OCD, but people associate like OCD with, you know, hyper organization. And I think a lot of people talk about PTSD, some people that were actually diagnosed with that same type of concept. And then people are like, I have PTSD because they're really associating that with this like flashback moment of something that happened to them that's traumatic. What needs to happen in order to be diagnosed with PTSD? Do you agree that that term's thrown around a lot? Like, what do you define or what have you been taught about PTSD that's actually like scientifically backed?
Yeah, totally. I just want to say thank you for asking for consent to talk about this. And for anyone who is an interviewer, that's very important when talking to someone about their trauma. So PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. If it's okay, I'll give the
Yes.
long answer.
Yeah, that's right.
Mostly because the definition has changed a lot over the past 20 years.
Yeah.
And you're right, it has become so mainstream. And I think it's important for people to understand what they're really talking about when they're using the terminology. So when I was diagnosed, which was about 20 years ago, the mainstream understanding at that time of trauma was kind of like capital T trauma. Like you experience one horrific event.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're a veteran, maybe you've experienced domestic violence, like these very extreme events. And then you're having both like mental, emotional, and physiological symptoms after that can kind of be traced back to that experience. For me, that event was September 11th. I was a freshman in high school. I grew up in Manhattan, and my high school was about 5 blocks away from the World Trade Center. And so I think in many ways, because I had that experience of like this one very horrific and dramatic event,
Yeah.
I was able pretty easily to get a PTSD diagnosis.
Got it.
Because when I started exhibiting symptoms, it was really easy to trace. Like the triggers have to do with like scenes of landscape destruction and like low flying planes. You know, it was like things that were just so obviously linked to September 11th.
Right.
So it was like literally I got diagnosed in like 10 minutes when I walked into my therapist. And it was it wasn't the first time I went to therapy, but it was the first time I had a therapist that I liked and that I felt comfortable with. And yeah, within about 10 to 15 minutes, she was like, yeah, you have PTSD.
Wow.
I think today we have a much more nuanced understanding of the way stress operates in the nervous system. So I think a lot of people still talk about PTSD as though they're talking about one very intense, severe event.
Yeah.
But we understand now that the symptoms that people experience from one specific event can also occur in states of chronic stress, in states of like if you're experiencing like micro traumas over time, especially at a very young age, that would be called complex PTSD, which is basically like chronic trauma over time while your brain is still in development. So now when we talk about things like triggers or nervous system regulation has become another huge buzzword. That's my area of specialty. And I think people often talk about it as though, again, they're talking about this like one bad thing that happened to them, but way more frequently what we're looking at when those of us who are nervous system practitioners are looking at like, what is your body's relationship to stress? How much stress is in your body on a regular basis? And how do we support your body in finding a healthier relationship to stress of any kind, whether that's really extreme, severe, violent stress or like the stress of too much traffic. The body kind of metabolizes all of it very similarly. So the body doesn't really differentiate.
Yeah.
Does that
Wow.
answer your question?
No, it does. And it's really helpful to hear because again, one of the things I think that I have become aware of as I've gotten older is like just how naive I am at life. Like when you grow up in a certain situation or whatever, you just don't have 8,000 different experiences. Like we have our experiences, we have our background, we have our upbringing, we have our financial stats, we have all these things. And the thing that I'm like so aware of now as an adult is just like how little I know. Yeah, it was very interesting, like on the conversation with my mom this morning when she said, like, you and your OCD. Because I've never been diagnosed with OCD. I had a therapist once back when I was younger be like, you show a lot of tendencies of OCD. You probably could get diagnosed for it, but I didn't feel a need to or go down that route necessarily. I just was like, I really like label makers, whatever. Like, and I made a joke. I remember one time on TikTok, I made a post and I said like, my OCD, whatever. And people were very triggered by it. And I was like, I have to be aware that like there's terms that have a heaviness to them that we lightly kind of pass around. And I was like, you're the perfect person to kind of talk about that. Do you mind me if I ask a little bit about like the diagnosis of that? Like, because it did come from something so horrific. Did it make you feel like, I don't want to say justified in what you were feeling and navigating? Was like that diagnosis like a release to you of like, okay, got it. Like, this is why I'm feeling this way. Or did it feel heavy to have that diagnosis on you? Because you were pretty young when that all happened. So you were probably still, your brain was developing, you're still processing this event. Like, how do you feel in that diagnosis? Was that a positive thing for you? Or was there like shame or heaviness around that?
Yeah. So September 11th happened when I was 14. I didn't exhibit any symptoms until 4 years later when I was 18. And there was another event that was causing a lot of similar imagery on the news. And that was when I started having panic attacks. I started having, like, I basically cried for a month. I cried for my first month of college.
Yeah.
And my hall advisor was kind of just like, I don't know what to do. So, like, let's go to the counseling office together. So I think because the way my PTSD surfaced was so kind of intense, and I was in such a new environment. It was literally my first month away at college. I didn't have my friends. I didn't have my parents. And so I think the diagnosis was quite relieving to know that like something legitimate was going on, and that like I had an adult in front of me who like understood and knew what to do. I think that was like very, very relieving at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious because, again, I think sometimes when we feel like what is happening, when we know like this is why it's happening, some people can take that as a heavy. It sounds like for you that was very relieving and maybe just allow you to be like, okay, now I at least know what's going on, especially in the midst of all that craziness. I want to go back to September 11th. I was in second or third grade and I was very young. All I knew is that my mom was supposed to go on a plane that day. So when I heard plane crash and then my mom was home and she told me she missed her plane, I thought she was supposed to be on that plane and she missed it. So I experienced a lot of heaviness around that for a couple of years until my mom was like, no, I was going on a plane September 11th that already happened. So they stopped sending flights. I was like, understood. I didn't understand like there's 8,000 planes happening at one day. Like I was very unaware. This was very young.
Right.
How much of that day do you remember? Like, do you mind sharing a little bit, whatever you're comfortable with around that? Because if you are so close in proximity to it, probably the urgency and the alert, the energy around that was very different than obviously me in like St. Louis, Missouri, not in the middle of like a big city. Do you remember that day? Do you remember knowing what was happening? Were you just in panic? Like, what was that day like?
Yeah, I actually don't talk about that day very often, and probably am not going to go into a lot of detail right now, mostly because for where I'm at in my own trauma healing, kind of like recounting the memory of it, it's nowhere near as triggering as it used to be, but my nervous system tendency is to go into dissociation and a freeze response. And if I go into a freeze response, which it could happen, it could not, it's very unpredictable. But if I were to, it would be very hard for me to continue to be interviewed.
That's fair.
Because
that's fair.
a freeze response really...
Yeah, I want you to, and you can also, it's okay to, I think, also say like, I don't like to go back to that day because it was really heavy. And I think, again, we all handle trauma, but the reason I love this interview so much is like, I'm like, I want someone to see what's real real life, like how you handle that heaviness and how you handle that experience, like how it's still affecting you however many years later. Like I think that's very healthy for people to see, because we get to choose how we handle things. We get to choose how we express ourselves. We get to choose how we navigate recalling something or deciding to like let that chapter go. And I think that's also a really like healthy thing. So I appreciate you also sharing that as well.
Yeah, and I think for me, because that day has in many ways really defined my life and my career, the moments when I do actively go into the memories of it are very sacred for me, and often like I do it in very particular contexts where I'm being held by like a healer of some kind. And today, these days, it's not actually that common anymore for me to go into severe dissociation. What used to happen when people would ask me about it is literally from head to toe, I would go fully numb. My face would go like my voice would be completely monotone. This, by the way, this is very classic, like severe dissociation symptoms if anyone is experiencing this. And it doesn't happen to that degree really ever anymore. But what does happen is like I'm actually able to experience the emotion of that day in a way that I wasn't for many, many, many years. And I think because I couldn't access it for so long, that emotion actually feels really important to me. Like it's really important to me to be able to feel grief over that day, but it does feel a little like sacred. So,
yeah, that makes sense. Well, thank you for sharing that and expressing that. For people who are experiencing trauma and maybe they don't feel the safety of going and, sitting down and that diagnosis, maybe there's a heaviness around that. Like, I know this is kind of like your area of expertise, but is there any resources or things that have been helpful for you? I know obviously that therapy experience was, but any other resources that have been helpful for you to like find safety and comfort in kind of where you're at now, like resources, tools, anything that you have kind of navigated or experienced over the last couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. So the number one thing for me is the body. I think people who get a PTSD diagnosis or who are experiencing chronic stress of any kind, nervous system dysregulation, all of these buzzwords that kind of are lumped under one umbrella, tend to be shuffled into talk therapy. It's a big piece of the puzzle and it's a really important part. And if you are not addressing the physiological piece with a practitioner who is trained to work in the body aspect of trauma and nervous system dysregulation, there's going to be missing pieces of the puzzle. So for me, it wasn't until I started learning how to connect to my body and learning how to like really gently come out of that chronic freeze that my symptoms actually started to go away. And like I said, for me, those symptoms were regular panic attacks, severe chronic pain, and pretty severe chronic fatigue. Things that like no 25-year-old should be like the level of exhaustion, pain I was in, just like it's not normal for 20 somethings. And when I started learning how to connect to my body and gently, gently, gently move some of that stuck energy through the physical body, the symptoms started changing, and they started changing pretty fast. And I think that's always the number one thing is the body. The body is the key, always, always, always. It's the scariest part because the body feels so unknown. And in many cases, for a lot of people, that trauma like occurred because of some kind of violation to the body. So the body can feel like a really unsafe place. But finding a practitioner who you trust, who you feel safe with, who can guide you in a way that's really, really gentle and soft is really going to be the key to creating change in the experience of trauma.
I love that. And that's what you literally do now in your life.
It is what I do.
Transition to a little bit more of the fun stuff, which is this incredible business that you have created. Obviously, we heard a little bit about how you decided to become a chiropractor and the journey there. Kudos to you, because bitch, there was no way I was going to be sitting in the library studying God knows whatever science class. I remember my science class in college was is it astrology? Like the
astronomy.
Astronomy. Look, bitch, I'm a CEO.
If your college had an astrology class.
But I had such a big ego because I was like, I'm going to be in the hard class with a hard teacher. I literally remember having
Astronomy
like
is hard.
astronomy. It's the same stuff. It's still A something. I remember being in that class and I had like a 79, but I had perfect attendance and I went in every single day to talk to the teacher aides and he gave me an 85 in the class just because I went in because, you know, kids skip class and everything. So kudos to you. Obviously chose a very difficult, very complex career field. Can you tell everyone a little bit like the somatic piece? Because a lot of people for chiropractor, but then there's this additional piece. What's the difference? Can you give us a little bit of an education lesson on that?
Yeah. So this is an area of specialty that there's not like a well-worn path.
Yeah.
What I do in sessions with clients is very much pulled from multiple modalities. So chiropractic, I would say, is like the number one hands-on tool that I'm using on the body in terms of like just like where I place contacts, how I assess the body, and what needs intervention. The lens through which I make my decisions, I would say, is my somatic experiencing training. So somatic experiencing is, now there are many different trauma healing trainings out there. Somatic experiencing, I think, is one of the more well-known ones. When I was starting my training path, it was like the only one that I knew of. So that was a 3-year training developed by Dr. Peter Levine. He's amazing. And somatic experiencing, I would say, is like the framework I use for how I make a plan with my clients, how I understand what is happening in their patterns of nervous system dysregulation and how I support them in like coming back into a more regulated state. And then chiropractic is one of the tools I use to support the body in doing that, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's like the first time I've really had anyone ever experience this. Again, like level of awareness. I was like,
Totally.
never had back pain. So I don't know. Like I think that's what people assume when they think of chiropractor.
When they hear chiropractor.
Back pain.
It's really interesting because I get a lot of people who just see the word chiropractor and they reach out to me. And I actually, like, if people's number one goal is to get out of pain, I refer them out because it's just not my specialty. Like, my specialty is supporting nervous system regulation and spinal unwinding. And often when that happens, a lot of symptoms go away, but it's not a guarantee. And so if someone's number one priority is getting out of pain, I do refer them to a different practitioner.
Yeah, see, this is so insightful. My best friend's husband is a chiropractor and he would always talk about all these things. And I'm like, yeah, you like do back pain. He's like, well, yeah, but there's a lot of different like variations of this. So getting to know you and understanding this, I'm like, God, this is just an untapped. Again, like I went to school and I did like business and didn't even know what type of science class I was in. So this is always very like interesting to me. Who needs your type of work? I don't know if you agree with this, but like as Americans specifically, we work long hours. We are always hunched doing we're really hard on our bodies. Yes. So like, is this something everyone needs? Is it like, if you're like, where's the trauma or the trigger or the regulation? When's the kind of transition into that where it's like, now we need to do something about it? Or is it like, this is something everyone should invest in micro doses and do over the period of time to center themselves? Like, what's your philosophy on like when this work is needed or who should start investing in this type of work?
That's a great question. So I would say, I'm going to give a very woo-woo answer.
Okay. We like the woo-woo around here. If you're not a DBM client, you don't understand, but here we are. Yeah, we love the woo-woo.
So because my experience of the initial stages of starting to connect to your body, it's big work. It is very transformational. It is a massive paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Like you said, the culture that we live in, brain centric, it is like focused on logic. It is focused on rationality. It is focused on productivity. Yeah. It is focused on hustle. All of those things, the body's not interested in any of that.
Yes.
And so when you start connecting to your body, it can be like a lot of upheaval. So the people who need this work are the people who are like, what I have been doing is not working. I'm unhappy. I'm stressed out. I'm burned out. I'm exhausted. I have all sorts of random physical symptoms that no one can diagnose. It's change or nothing. Like the only option is for me to create real change in my life and in my body. And I think the key is that the timing has to be right, because if you're not ready for it, if you're not on board with like, I am here for real change,
Yeah.
then it's going to feel alarming. So I would say, yeah, like the woo woo part of it is like, it really is an inner knowing of like, my clients, they come, we have like various introductory conversations. And through that process, it is a process for them of like, am I really at this place of like really ready for real change or not? And if you're not, that's perfect. Like there's nothing wrong with that. If you try to create change too soon, it's not gonna land, and it's
Yeah.
not gonna be sustainable.
That makes complete sense. And I do think there is something to be said about like that readiness, because big changes, I think the mind stuff too, of like, you know,
Totally.
there's women, obviously as a business coach, I have women who are like, I wasn't ready for like the heaviness that, you know, the things that I share, that's more from the mindset, that logical piece that you're talking about. But there is something to be said, especially even when I go to like an in-person event, my body reacts. It's a little bit different.
Yes.
And it's very uncomfortable for me. I'm not a very vulnerable person. I am with like my friends, and I think I'm very transparent, but I think transparency and vulnerability are not the same thing. I think I'm a very like transparent person, very vulnerable. Can you tell me a little bit about like a session? Obviously, everyone's a little bit different, but like, again, for awareness for people, I think of massage, and I think you lay down and they put the nice, sexy oil all over your body, and sometimes you get into a little bit and make you all sexy and smell good. And then I think of like a chiropractor and thinking like they're like, you know, eating into like, what does a session look like? Is there conversation? Is it all body work? Is it breath work? Is it like, what's a session actually look like for you?
Yeah, great question. So first thing to say is what people think of when they think of traditional chiropractic. Like what I do could not be further from that. Like there's never any twisting, popping, or cracking.
Take it off the list. That's not what
it is off the list. All the things that people are afraid of chiropractors for, I don't do.
Are people afraid of chiropractors? Because they're going to like
hurt. Afraid of chiropractors.
I would be more afraid of like someone's like, we're going to do deep work. I'd be like, do I have to cry? Do I have to like tell you my life story? That's more scary to me. Like if you want to like, you know, bang them on my back a little, like, okay, cool. Like, no. That's like not scary.
Yeah, if you're scared of crying, then I'm probably not the practitioner for you.
Susanna's like, actually, I am the person. Come to me. Benihana, come to me and I will ream you a new one, and you're going to do like a new pitch in a day. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. I probably do need someone like you. So actually, this is good. This is like healthy for me. I'm prepared. I'm ready. Give me a session. Yes. You know, this is good.
So the hands-on work itself is incredibly gentle. Like people are often shocked by how little I touch them.
Yeah.
So it's a 30-minute session. It's a communal adjusting space. So I have 3 tables in my office at once, and I have 3 people on the tables at the same time. The reason for that is, I don't know if you've ever heard the term co-regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So human nervous systems are always in communication with other nervous systems, and we're always learning from each other, like subconsciously. So if there's someone in the room whose nervous system has more strategies than yours does, is more regulated than you, it's actually like subconsciously teaching you while you're on the table together. So it's really magical. Like you'll see one person on one table have a release, and then it'll trickle through like dominoes without me even doing anything.
Whoa.
So people feel awkward the first 1 or 2 times and then kind of get used to it. But the work itself, yes, it's really gentle body work. So they're face down on the table. Clothes are on. It's not like a massage. And I'm just making really gentle contacts along the spine. Sometimes I'm doing a little bit of guidance around directing your breath to certain areas of the body. Sometimes I'm doing really gentle changes in your position to kind of support the body in moving breath into a particular area. It's not uncommon for people to have emotional release. It's a very normal part of it. Sometimes they understand what or why they're having emotion. Sometimes it's just the physiological release of letting emotion out, and we don't have any story or memory attached to it. Yeah, that's kind of what a session looks like.
Do you get emotional in sessions, or are you just like in your zone?
When I'm a client?
No, when you're like leading them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, when you like witness someone feeling something, you like,
yes.
Every time I watch America's Next Top Model and that winner is announced, I cry. Like
Yeah.
watching them, I know it's such a silly example, but like I feel other people's emotions very heavily. I don't know if that's like I need to be diagnosed for something, or that's just, I guess maybe I'm an empathetic person. I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing about me, but I feel other people's emotions so heavily. And I can imagine like when you sit and watch these things happening, one, there's pride that you're helping that come. And two, there's also like an empathy of how they're navigating that, because you know what had happened for that emotion to be released. So how is that session for you? Like, how do you feel? Is it heavy afterwards? Is it emotionally draining? Like, what's the emotions that you're processing during and after those sessions?
Yeah, great question. So I do a lot of boundary work before and after my client shifts, because I'm also a major, major empath, and it's easy for me to like want to go all in with my clients because I adore them and I'm so proud of them for how much they're opening, how much they're like facing in themselves, how much they're shifting. So I have like very important practices that I do before every session to kind of get really, really centered in myself and to have clear and healthy boundaries. And as long as I've been good about doing that, then I may experience emotion like pride or like being proud of the client or feeling like awe. I mean, awe is a big part of it for me because I know exactly how hard it is to like find and face the stuff that your body has buried.
Yeah.
I know this journey so intimately. I just feel so in awe of my clients for showing up in that way. And I think also it's a lot of like gratitude that this is the work that I get to do, that like I get to show my younger self that like I made something from. I don't really love the phrase everything happens for a reason. I do feel pride that like the worst, most horrific day of my life, I was able to turn into something that heals. So I think sometimes I get emotional because of that too. Like when I see them having these big moments of self-connection, and I'm like, I know what it took for me to get here, what it took for me to create this modality, you know, all the things that had to happen for us to be here in this moment, for them to feel that thing that they've been afraid to feel. It's like, wow.
That's really beautiful. And you should be proud because your work is incredibly impactful and people need it. And sometimes people who don't even realize, that's why I'm so excited about this episode, is maybe people don't even realize that there's work out there that can support them in something. Because again, my level of awareness, we experience things that sometimes bring us new opportunities, new awareness, new ventures, new clarity. And this episode might be that for someone. So if someone did want to get in touch with you, connect with you, learn maybe a little bit more about your work. Maybe they are local and they can actually come see you in person. Where can they connect with you? Where can they find you? Give us all the deets.
Yeah. So the best place right now is either Instagram at Dr. Susanna Bergin, or
She's a doctor, bitches. She's a doctor.
It turns out I am a doctor.
I actually am a doctor. It's very impressive, by the way. I always wish I had doctor in front of my name. I always was like, that is like baller fucking status.
I still have identity crises about it, but it is there.
It's like, own it, own it. If you took the work and energy and paid the bills to get through school to get that doctor, you better fucking own it loud and proud.
Yeah, baby. For real. And yeah, also my website, susannabergin.com. You can find ways to contact me there.
Send her a quick message, connect with her. I have one final question for you, Susanna. This has been so good. What are you indulging on right now? Something you're loving, reading, eating, snacking on, going to, just something that's just been filling your cup recently that you can share with our audience.
One of the things that happens when you have chronic dissociation is you often lose touch with hobbies, because a freeze response will turn off your executive functioning. So it's really hard to like have a sense of like being interested in things. And so over the last decade of no longer being in severe chronic dissociation, there's been like all these different phases of healing that I've been able to access. And the latest one is being able to like really get excited and nerd out about hobbies again, which is amazing. Like I didn't.
So good. So good. We
It's
totally
so
lose our
cool.
hobbies as we get older, and it's really bad. We need to find those.
Right. So I am currently teaching myself how to use a sewing machine. When I was in middle school, I really wanted to be a fashion designer. And
we went here and then we went straight opposite way. Okay, here we go.
And so, yeah, I got a sewing machine off of eBay. I've been teaching myself how to sew, and I am having so much fun.
I love that. So sewing in conjunction with finding a hobby and remembering like
Yeah,
you should have something that brings you like personal, there's no achievement behind it. There's no like,
totally.
this brings me money, just something that you enjoy. That is actually one of the things that I need to work on. So that was a very good reminder.
Yeah,
I love
totally.
it. Susanna, you are a blessing. I adore you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. This was really beautiful. Thanks, Ashley.